Colorado had one of the best offenses in the country last season thanks to their passing attack. But there is one person that could take it to the next level, and most people don't even realize who it is.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Board. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We're talking about Colorado's offense, and as you can see on our little rundown over here, we're talking about how Alton McCaskill can take this offense to the next level, because it's no secret last season that Colorado had a great elite passing attack. Even despite having the worst offense line in the country, they were hucking that thing all over the yard. But there is one person in particular, that can take this offense to the next level, and his name is Alton McCaskill. Sorry. Don't know why I said McCaskill. But either way, he only had 14 carries last season for 59 yards, and they shut him down. He was injured. He came into the season injured, and there was a thought that he could be back, and there was a thought that he could kind of take this offense to the next level, and just didn't work out that way. I think it was probably best for both parties at that time to just realistically shut him down and let him get healthy, because the offensive line wasn't going to be able to block for him anyway, and he just wasn't at 100% regardless, which you don't want to ever not be at 100% and then go play a position where you get bashed around all the time. But Alton McCaskill comes into this season, seems to be healthy, and there's three reasons why I think he could take this offense to a whole other level. Back when they landed him, I said that was probably their biggest transfer addition. This was assuming that he was healthy, assuming that he was going to play. Obviously, I didn't realize he was only going to be in there for a handful of games, but he comes in this season and he completely changes the offense for them. He opens up the passing game, which I know we're not talking about the passing attack, but he does, because the passing game was basically, okay, Shador, you're in the shotgun and everyone knows you're going to pass the ball. Good luck. Or there was no play action. There was no thought of like, oh, do we need to stack the box right now? It's a obvious running situation, but Colorado couldn't run the ball. There was no obvious running situation for them because there was no running situation. Like Dylan Edwards and Anthony Hankerson, they did a fair job. I'm not going to take anything away from them, but that offensive line just made it so difficult to get anything going, made everyone's lives more difficult. And having Alton McCaskill, he opens up that play action. He opens up more plays in the playbook, because Pat Shurmur, let's say his playbook is 200 pages. Well, you can't run the ball. That eliminates 50 run plays. That also eliminates 50 play action plays. And now you're down to 100 plays of just passing. And it's like, we just lost half the playbook because we can't block well enough. Well, this new offensive line comes in and there's expected to be much better. And Alton McCaskill's healthier. Look for the passing attack to have some more play action concepts, and look for Alton McCaskill to kind of really be the ultimate weapon. He could be used in the passing game or whatever it may be. Same thing with Dylan Edwards. If Alton McCaskill gets going, Dylan Edwards is going to get going. Everyone eats. Michael Welch, same thing. Secondly, you could control the clock, and you're probably like, why does that matter? If you look at Colorado's game management, which I wish like maybe I could create it. I don't know how I'd create it, but I wish there was like a game management analytic where I could be like, you know what, Colorado messed up this many possessions because of analytics or game time management. But their game management was horrendous. Now, there's a few things. One, I honestly think there was a game management aspect that really wasn't. I think Coach Prime was learning how to manage games as a head coach, as a CEO. I think at Jackson State, for the most part, they were kind of blowing everyone out, so game management was easier. They also had a better team, so game management was easier because they could run the ball. And when your team is as limited as Colorado was last season, it's hard to manage a game because it's like, one, we can't run the ball. Two, we can't protect our quarterback well enough for him to get the ball out quickly. And then three, our defense can't get off the field. So it's hard to manage a game in those situations. But if you can run the ball, for instance, let's think of a perfect game where running the ball would have came in clutch. Oh, how about right before the bye week, that game against Stanford? You go up 29-0, you open the half, boom, boom, nothing happens. If Alton McCaskill is able to kind of help Colorado extend their leads, extend their drives, and keep them like if they have a big lead and they can run the ball effectively, that's going to take every team out of the game. Like if you can't get your offense the ball, there's no chance you're going to win the game. That is what it is. So it's going to help Colorado control the clock. It's going to help them stay on offense. It's going to help them manage the game as a whole. It's going to help them give rest to their defense. Controlling the clock is the name of the game. And obviously, there's 2-minute warnings now in the second and fourth quarters, which I talked about also. It can help you get around those or to those if you need to. I think realistically, Colorado has a few things working in their favor for game management this next season. I expect that to be kind of an improvement. And then lastly, it's an added element to the offense. I kind of teased this already, but when teams played Colorado last season, they basically wanted Shedeur Sanders to beat them. And as the season went on, it was obvious that defenses, I won't say were shutting down Shedeur because you can't shut down Shedeur, but they were limiting what Colorado could do. They were just like, okay, beat us in front of us. Like you're not going to throw anything behind us. Make a play in front of us and make your receivers make a play after the catch. Like every defense would just rushing the quarterback and letting their defenses drop back. And it really forced Shedeur Sanders to kind of have to settle. And obviously no quarterback wants to just take the easy passes every time, which Shedeur is really good at making the right decisions, but they need to kind of figure out a way, or they needed to figure out a way to change the offensive dynamic. And they couldn't do that because they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't block for Shedeur long enough for other plays. So this adds an element of you can now run the ball, gain some yards. Hell, you could probably run the ball 7 times on a drive if you wanted. You throw in Dylan Edwards, you throw in Alton McCaskill, you throw in the freshman, and it's like, okay, we're gonna run this drive. And I think this just adds a different kind of energy, confidence, swagger to this offense that they were lacking. And it's probably crazy to be like, how does a Deion Sanders coach prime coach offense or coach prime coach team lack swagger? They didn't have that identity. They didn't even have an identity, as Coach Prime would kind of tell us later on in the season. So I think Alton McCaskill is kind of the key player. And even though it didn't work out last season, if he's able to be healthy, I think he could be the key player on this offense, which I talked about. It's a big if. I've said this before. He hasn't played a meaningful college football game since 2021. So it'll be interesting to see, if he can kind of return to that form where at Houston, where he was running for, let's see, let me pull up the numbers for you. 189 carries for 960 yards. Wow. 5.1 yards per carry, 16 touchdowns. And that's just, just imagine that element. And then he also had 21 catches for 113 yards and 2 scores. So he is just a bona fide weapon. If you could get the weapon healthy, look out, Big 12 defenses. It's going to get mighty difficult to slow down this Colorado offense, because if teams are having to focus on the run, even in the slightest, well, guess what? Colorado has the best quarterback in the country, or one of the best quarterbacks in the country, Shedeur Sanders. So things are going to get tricky. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the Big 12 and the 3 things that I think Colorado absolutely needs in order to succeed. Passion, drive, and patience, it's what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP. Bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Again, that's ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Bus. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. We're diving into the Big 12 needs. I think there's 3 of them that stand out. You guys comment below what you think are the biggest 3 needs. So we'll see if we're aligning. Comment before I say mine, and we'll kind of play like this game of like, oh, did we match up or did we not? Okay. First one. This is the obvious one. So this should be number 1 on your list. Protecting the quarterback, better offensive line play. I think, obviously, in theory, this offensive line looks better. Everything about them is better. They have starting experience. They have Power 5 experience. Some of them do. They're proven. They're really good pass protectors. Whereas last year, and the system's easier to learn, I would say, or the system's going to be better suited to playing to their strengths. Last season, Not only was the offense line full of guys that hadn't really played, it was full of guys that kind of were not suited for the system that Sean Lewis wanted to run. And I think we saw that. Like even the guys that came from Kent State with him, they weren't really balling out. Like they weren't protecting that well. Sorry, had to get some water there. Second thing, obviously the offense line, vital. I talked about it with Alton McCaskill. You protect the quarterback, you establish a run game, and next thing you know, defenses have no idea what the heck you're going to run because you have more options. Again, pretend that, I don't even know, pretend you're trying to go out to eat and you're going with your girlfriend or your wife or whatever, and she says, you know what? We're only eating on the east side of town. Like all the restaurants on the west side of town are no go. So it's like no Olive Garden, no whatever, no really good Mexican restaurant or no really good sushi or whatever's over there, gone. And it's like, okay, well on the east side of town, there's only McDonald's and that one restaurant that no one wants to go to, like whatever it may be. And it's like, well, everyone knows we're going to go to McDonald's. And so everyone knew that Colorado was going to have to throw the ball, and everyone knew that they were going to have to do it out of center or out of shotgun because they couldn't block for Shedora. And everyone knew they wanted to do tempo. So it was like there was no masking anything last season. I think that made it really hard. And as the season went on and the offense began to struggle more, Sean Lewis had no adjustments. So we need some better offense line play. I think there's going to be a lot more newer pass rushers in the Big 12. Just because you look at all the teams all the pass rushers that were dominating the Big 12, a lot of them are declaring for the NFL draft, or some of them were over at Texas or Oklahoma, so they're not going to be in the Big 12 anymore. But there's still going to be guys that could get to the quarterback. There is every year. I think every team is trying to find their next great pass rusher. And if you're Colorado, you don't want to figure out who it is. I can tell you that. Secondly, so first one, offensive line performance, it's got to be up. Second one, how to succeed in the Big 12, 101, be able to slow down the passing attacks for the other team. I think a lot of people focused a lot on the defensive line and linebackers, which I think the linebackers are still concerned, but I don't want to harp on it too much because I still feel like there's room for improvement with those guys. But you look at all the Big 12 teams in years past, they've made their bread and butter, made all their money by just airing that thing out. All these teams have really good quarterbacks. I wouldn't say they're as good as like this past year's Pac-12, but you look at Cam Rising, for instance. You look at the Utah quarterback who has 7 years under his belt, a reconstructed knee, so who knows if he's going to kind of be able to air it out as much as he wants to. They have Avery Johnson at Kansas State. Alan Bowman is like a 7-year quarterback or 8-year quarterback at Oklahoma State who's probably going to take another step forward. They have Jalen Daniels. They have all these guys. And it's like, if you're Colorado, you have to be able to stop the other team's passing attack. Just like how other teams are going to try to stop yours, you have to be able to at least slow it down. Because if teams can go blow for blow with you, it's going to get difficult to kind of survive that each and every week. Because you look at the list of quarterbacks, like right now, I'm just going off the quarterbacks that they have to play. Dylan Raiola, freshman, but he's going to be pretty solid. Baylor got a quarterback by the name of Daquan Finn, and he is a dynamic athlete from Toledo. I believe he was clocked over 21 miles per hour this past season. Also threw for 2,600 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 9 picks, and completed 63% of his passes. So he's going to be a really tough quarterback to slow down. Then you go on with their schedule. UCF, KJ Jefferson. Like I already mentioned, Kansas State has Avery Johnson. Arizona has Noah Fafita, who is one of the purest passers in all of college football. If you don't know him, go check out Arizona because they're going to be on a tear next season. Texas Tech has some decent quarterbacks, but then you go Cam Rising, Jalen Daniels, like I mentioned, Alan Bowman. So there's going to be some talented quarterbacks that they run into along the way. If this secondary makes the same mistakes they did last season, it's going to be a long year because you could take Travis Hunter out of a game by not throwing to him. You just have whatever receiver he's covering, run deep downfield or just run all these random routes that you know you're not going to throw to. He's not even part of the progression. And that's just to tire Travis Hunter out, and it's to take him out of the game. You could target Amarion Cooper. You could target Cormani McClain if you want to. You could target whoever else is over there because it's probably a better chance than targeting Travis Hunter. That's just how it goes. Third thing. So we got protect the quarterback, better offensive line, just all that in between. Stop the pass. Third thing, handle adversity better. I've talked about this countless times, and I don't know if you guys said that. I'm really interested to see what you guys are going to comment. If you can't handle adversity, it's going to get really tough. I think this Colorado team last year, it was one of those things where everyone was gassing them up so much where they were like, we really are that good. We are 3-0. We are the number 19 team in the country. We are going to beat Oregon. Like the video before Oregon, the Oregon pregame video or movie or whatever it's called that Oregon put out, that was embarrassing for Colorado. I won't lie to you. That was the most embarrassing thing I've seen in a while. Obviously, everything is edited to make them look bad, but they're like stomping on the field. Shiloh Sanders, not to call him out, but that he was like the focal point of the video, talking about how he's going to beat all of them up and they're so small. And then it like instantly cuts to him getting stiff armed into the ground. And then it's Bishop Thomas, who's like maniacally laughing at Bo Nix warming up, who absolutely torched the defense. And so handle adversity better, because obviously that Oregon game, it sucked. They got blown out. National television. Everyone was waiting for that to happen. Everyone that wasn't a Colorado fan was excited for that to happen. You go to USC and USC punches you in the mouth repeatedly in the first half, and then you aren't able to respond until the second half. Same thing down the stretch. All their games down the stretch, it was kind of like it added on to each other, it piled on, and they just didn't know how to respond. There was no turning the switch. There was no, as my Little League baseball coach back in the day said, turn the page. Like something bad happens, you got to turn the page, because if you stick on page 12 and page 12 sucks for you, it's going to suck the rest of the book if you're just thinking about page 12 the whole time. So realistically, they need a better offensive line showing. They need to slow down the pass, and they need to handle adversity, which is all about being mentally tougher. I think the new additions, as we see in the well-off media videos, are, I think they're all trying to, it's like those weird, I wouldn't say it's weird, but it's like this kind of borderline, like assert dominance, but also be like, guys, we need to be tough. Because all these guys are fighting for starting spots. No one has a starting spot outside of Shedeur, Travis, Shiloh. I feel like I'm missing someone. Excuse me, but there's not that many starting spots, like claimed right now. Every spot is up for grabs. So all these guys are trying to assert their dominance while also be a really good team in it. I think that's a tough combination, but I do like where their head's at. I do like the improvement that they're making. So you guys comment your 3 things below. We'll compare and contrast, and we could discuss it and duke it out in the comments. I appreciate you guys for always commenting and always supporting. When we come back, we're going to be talking about all the news that's been happening around Colorado lately, whether it's coaching changes, players leaving. I'll have you covered. But first, a word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked on Bus is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire Stick TV that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports fans for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. I have one. I watch it. I use it for everything. Sometimes I want to watch sports. Sometimes I want to watch my favorite TV show, binge a show or two, and Fire TV's got me covered. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/lockedon Fire TV. Again, that's www.amazon.com/lockedon Fire TV. News around Boulder. Let me tell you what's happening, what you may have missed, what you need to know. Colorado has gained a player and they've lost a player. We'll just go with the addition first. They added a walk-on. He plays both receiver and safety, and it's really obviously a nice addition, I would say. His name's Carson Westbrook out of Georgia, joins as a preferred walk-on, so he's not on scholarship, but he is kind of like someone that they think very highly of. A little bit about him. He plays, let's see, free safety last fall. Sorry, I was reading this little breakdown that I have of him. Free safety last fall. Had 7 passes broken up, 6 interceptions, 5'11", 180 pounds. He also racked up 42 catches for over 730 yards, 5 touchdowns and receiver. He also had some offers from, or was looking at the Colorado School of Mines. Looked at Georgetown, Georgia Southern, Columbia, Brown, Fordham, and UMass have all hosted him for visits. He's kind of a do-it-all type of guy. Don't know what his role will be, what position he'll be, but he's a good addition for Colorado. Next, we're heading to a former Buff, Eric Bieniemy, former Colorado star and everything in between, former Colorado coach. He has a new gig. Obviously, will not be playing against Colorado anymore, or coaching against Colorado. But he was hired to be the new offensive coordinator at UCLA. If you guys didn't know, Chip Kelly, who was on the hot seat anyway, and they probably should have fired. I don't like calling for people's jobs, but they were reporting. The reports were like, Chip Kelly's done by the end of the year. Then they beat USC, and it's like, you know what, Chip Kelly, give him another year. Well, he interviewed for every single job imaginable this offseason. He was trying to get NFL jobs. He was interviewing for other offensive coordinator jobs, and eventually was hired at Ohio State after Bill O'Brien left for the Boston College head coaching job. So Eric Bieniemy, who was the OC and play caller for the Commanders this past season, he takes a trip to LA and is now the offensive coordinator under the new regime. He's got a tough battle ahead of him because they obviously don't have a really good quarterback situation, but it's Eric Bieniemy. So never doubt him at all. And then lastly, Colorado has a transfer departure, Jack Bailey, who, if you guys know, was one of the guys that came over from Kent State. He followed Sean Lewis and Bill Boyle, started all 12 games this past season. He's one of 14 players that are transferring from Colorado, which obviously let me put this kindly. Jack Bailey started all 12 games for Colorado and provided some consistency on the line in terms of, like, they knew they were going to start him. Obviously, no one on that line performed as well as Colorado needed. So unfortunately it didn't work out, but hopefully he finds a perfect landing spot for him. He might reunite with Sean Lewis and Bill Boyle over at San Diego State. But it didn't work out in Boulder, and that's okay. Colorado brought in a whole new offensive line unit. They brought in Tyler Johnson, Phillip Houston, Yakiri Walker, Justin Mayers, Khalil Benson. They have Jordan Seaton. They have David Connor, who transferred in from Florida last season but couldn't play due to injury. They have all these guys where it's like they have so much talent. They have so much depth. And I think he was just trying to read the writing on the wall. And so hopefully it works out for him wherever he ends up. But that is what we got for news around Boulder. The Pac-12 tournament is also starting soon for Colorado for basketball. The women's team, let's see how they did. In their first round game, I knew how they did. I just wanted to make sure I had the score right. They beat Oregon by a nice score of 79-30. Blew them out in the first round. That's number 18, Colorado. Shalomi Sanders got in the game. She played for a minute, logged a rebound, which is nice. Frida Foreman, balling as usual, 17 points. The senior out of Denmark was 5 of 6 from deep, and just always has the hot hand. And then the men's team, they will open up their Pac-12 tournament. Or no, they won't. Excuse me. They have 2 more games. They have Oregon and Oregon State coming up. They play Oregon tonight and then Oregon State on Saturday. Like I mentioned before, they need to win both of these games to not only get better seeding in the Pac-12 tournament, but also to help them solidify themselves in the NCAA tournament, because they're kind of on the bubble, kind of might not make it. It's hard to tell, but they are currently 3 games back of the top spot in the Pac-12. So that's what's happening around Boulder. You guys, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers. We're only like 20-ish away. I appreciate all of your guys' support, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Have a great Thursday. I will see you guys on Friday.